Hi, everyone. Welcome to Happy to See Me, the podcast that puts the spotlight on the overlooked and underestimated. I'm Erika Casupanan, and this week we are talking about reality TV. I am speaking with reality TV casting director Heather Muir. But first, I love to start each episode talking about something I was happy to see this week. So if you listened to last week's episode with Health by Hannah B, and if you haven't listened yet, I suggest you go and check it out. I started the episode talking about how I was happy to see progress in my chin-up journey. So the Coles notes, I have been trying to do a chin-up for years. At the end of last year, I ended up doing my first unassisted chin-up. And then this February, I was able to do 2 unassisted chin-ups. And then in last week's episode, I was so excited to share that in March, I was able to get up to 3 unassisted chin-ups. And now it is still March when I'm recording this. I know you'll be listening to this in April. But to my surprise, when I was at the gym, I decided to give it a whirl and see if I can get a 4th unassisted chin-up in. And now I am happy to see that I can do 4 unassisted chin-ups. But really, it's not just about the number of chin-ups that I am happy to see. What I'm happy to see is I was able to put myself in a position to surprise myself and push myself out of my comfort zone a little bit and see how much progress I made and see how much I could change in a short amount of time. So that's what I was happy to see this week. And really, when you think about it, over the last few years, after I went and did my first stint on reality TV, I got to witness how much something can change and how you can run into such incredible surprises when you put yourself out of your comfort zone and put yourself in the position to surprise yourself and to grow. So I love having these special episodes when I can talk about reality TV, and it is such an honor to have Heather Muir on this episode. Heather is a Canadian reality TV casting director, and she has worked on so many of the top Canadian reality TV shows. To name a few, she has worked on Canada's Drag Race, Big Brother Canada, The Bachelor Canada, Canada's Got Talent, so many home renovation shows, cooking shows, and she even cast this little show called The Traitors Canada and was responsible for getting me back on TV and also for convincing me to do another reality TV show. So we love Heather. In this episode, we are debunking some myths when it comes to reality TV casting. Heather talks about what casting directors are really looking for. She provides tips for making a reality TV casting video. And we are answering your questions about reality TV casting and auditions. So thank you to the listeners for submitting all of your questions. I have gone through reality TV casting twice, and I even learned new things and new perspectives from this interview. So I think that this is going to be a helpful interview for any reality TV hopefuls out there. And if you have any friends or family who are applying for reality TV shows and they need that helpful advice, make sure you share this episode with them. Let's get into it. Prepare for some wisdom. Here is my interview with Heather Muir. I hope you enjoy it. It is such a treat to have you. I find every day I am getting DMs from people asking if I could give them casting advice, asking if I could watch their videos. Unfortunately, it's not possible for me to watch all their videos. So I figure, what's the next best thing? Bring in an expert. So I am so happy to have you.
Well, thank you very much. I like being considered an expert because this is something I really love doing. I love it.
How does one get into reality TV casting? Let's start there.
See, I've been in it since the late 1800s. So I have no idea how to advise people now. Although I do have people who message me and say that they're interested in, working with me. I think people just watch credits of shows that they love and get in touch with the people who are doing the job that they'd love to do. And I think that's probably a good idea. Also, just you start at the bottom and now you're here. You just do anything you can do to get your foot in that door and make sure everybody knows what your goals are.
So is that how you got started? You started as a production assistant in TV and then found your way to casting? Or were you the one who was looking somebody up on IMDb and you're like, how do I get this job?
No. I got in it through catering and comedy. Okay,
Wow.
So I knew I wanted to work in TV, but I thought it was just a dream. Like, how do people actually work in TV? And so I got a job with a company that caters film and TV sets so that I could go and be on the set and see, look, there's all these normal people that work on this. Like, this is a job. I wanted to make it real in my mind. And I was also thinking at the time I would want to act. And I did have a couple of acting gigs, but I'm just not very good at that. But comedy mainly because two of my closest friends when I first was in Toronto were producing open mic comedy nights. And so I found myself hanging out at the back of the room and watching a lot of emerging talent, watching a lot of talent that would just drop in, like famous people would just drop in because they were in town, they would do a set. And so an opportunity came up to cast new emerging comedians. I'm like, I think I'm an expert at this now because I've been in the back of comedy clubs for the last 2 years. And I was a waitress at Yuck Yucks. I knew it. So I knew what I was doing.
Okay, I like this. It proves for anyone who's listening that there is a way in to do what you want to do, even if it is not the way that you think it should look like or how people normally advise you. If you want it, it can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
And you have worked on so many of the most amazing Canadian reality TV shows. You've worked on Canada's Drag Race, Big Brother Canada, The Bachelor Canada, so many home renovation shows, so many cooking shows, other dating shows, and you are responsible for casting yours truly on The Traitors Canada. So, folks, I've said previously on the podcast, I was on the fence about whether or not I wanted to come back to reality TV, but Heather got me. Heather got me there. So thank you, Heather.
What a kick for me to talk to you about that because I am such a fan. You're Erika,
oh my God.
And so when I spoke with you and I thought, okay, I think this might actually happen, I was beside myself. Oh, it was so exciting.
Were you a reality TV fan before you started casting for these unscripted shows?
Well, like I said, I started in the late 1800s, so reality really wasn't a big thing. But I found my way in through comedy, and then luckily the production company I was working with on comedy shows then moved into doing competition reality, so Canadian Idol. And I was so lucky to be with them for years and make that move to Big Brother. So I was really lucky, but my expertise was really looking for the experts, the hosts, the panelists, and then the competitors. So when we talk about Big Brother, I was lucky enough to cast Arisa. So that's how I came in and then had the first two. Yeah. Arisa and I sat back to back at a production company, and she was like a segment producer, and I came in to do some casting, and our chairs kept banging into each other when we would back up.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognized her from The Lofters, and I was like, you have to get back on TV. You have to get back on TV. And like, lo and behold, like 18 months later, I think this came up and I called her.
Okay, I am mind blown because I love Arisa. I think Arisa is one of the best to ever do it because one, amazing on TV, looks great, but then also genuinely loves the game and has so much respect for all of the competitors. And that's incredible that you were able to identify that when she was just your colleague at an office.
Well, I don't know if I identified how actually exceptional she is at this. I knew she was great on camera. She is so relatable and yet has an authority to her. But yeah, she's pretty passionate. So I knew she had that, but I never knew she would be this incredible. Yeah, she's fantastic. But that goes to show you, if you back your chair up into somebody, you never know where you're going to be a couple years later, right?
Again, the moral of the story is you never know your way into things. Now I'm looking back at all the people I've worked at in offices. I'm like, oh, who did I accidentally bump into on the way to the microwave? And what are they working on? And are they going to call me?
Yeah.
Hopefully putting it out there, okay?
Exactly.
So when you're casting for things like hosts or panelists versus when you're casting for competitors for reality TV shows, what is the main difference in terms of the people that you're looking for?
Well, I mean, hosts and panelists, the audience is looking for recognizable names and faces and trustworthiness. A few years ago when we were working on the panel for Canada's Got Talent, you're looking for people who are going to want to sit in that seat and love what they're watching, love being a part of it, have enthusiasm, and also an expertise that you respect. So that's one thing. When I'm looking for competitors, I'm looking for people who are equally enthusiastic, but also completely themselves. Just completely themselves, unabashedly themselves. No more, no less.
I know so many people when they apply for reality shows, they get frustrated because they're like, everyone tells me to just be myself, but I feel like being myself is not enough. And I know that there's I don't know how to describe it. Maybe the X factor when it comes to when you see somebody audition for a show. How would you describe that X factor or that sparkle or that pop that make people stand out?
It is a matter of being completely comfortable in your own skin. There's something about being relaxed in that and then speaking from your gut, your heart, your head, but it comes across as authentically you. It's just you and how you're going to present things. I worry when people think, I know what production wants here. I think production is expecting me to do this. I expect that they want this from me. Wipe that all from your mind. Wipe that all from your mind and sit down and look that person in the eye that you're talking to and have a conversation. That's what you should do.
It's true. I think that people need to know their self before they go and apply for these shows, because that's the thing. Someone like you want to see the person authentically for who they are. But then unless they've done that work and they figured out who they are, how are they supposed to communicate that to you too?
Yeah. And it also really matters that they like the series that they're applying for and that they want to be a part of it. There's been times, and when you're casting, even for big shows, you don't just sit and wait for the applications to come in. You hope for that and you're excited when they do, but you also do some targeted approaches. You want certain people to come to the table and you can't twist those arms. They have to want to be there. So telling a casting producer that you want to be there is something.
Yeah, I think that that's the other thing. There's that level of enthusiasm that seems like it's so simple and that obviously everybody will be able to communicate that. But yeah, I remember even when I was going through casting for Survivor, I remember the casting director giving feedback to everyone. And he was like, you need to lean in and act like you actually want to be there. And I'm thinking, oh, isn't that just a given? But yeah, some people forget and you need to know.
Yep. And I also look for people who do my job for me. When I'm sitting across from somebody and I'm asking them a question, I really hope that they can genuinely pick up the ball and run with it with, an opinion, with a thought, with a story. That helps me out a lot if I'm not drawing it out of them. Although I'll tell you, there's some people that I've had to draw things out of that turn out to be just terrific. So yeah, again, if you're being authentic.
Yeah, I think that a big challenge for people is they might not realize what they need to be communicating in these videos. I remember when I was putting together my Survivor audition tape, I was like, okay, maybe I need to think of this scenario to grab their attention. And I was really lucky. I had a friend who I worked with, and she had previously worked in marketing for TV. So I was telling her my idea for my video, and she was like, Erika, you don't need to do that stuff to stand out. She's like, you are the perfect person to be on the show. You are the perfect person to win the show. You literally just have to make a video of you talking and explaining who you are and why you think you can win. She's like, I'm telling you, that's it. So I did. My video was just me standing there talking, and that was enough for them to call me back. What do you think are the main things that people need to be communicating if they're putting together an audition video?
I think it is, don't have too many bells and whistles and frills and frou-frou. I really do like it when somebody talks to me and tells me what they want and who they are. But tell me who you are. Don't read off of a cue card into the camera. Pretend you're on the phone with somebody or you're having a face-to-face conversation. Have your best friend behind your computer and pretend you're talking to them. Because I want to see how you're going to sound, act, react when the camera's rolling in front of you. And there won't be cue cards at that time. So just talk to me. Usually when I'm asking for a self-tape for a series, I'll give them questions and I'll say, these are the 4 questions I want you to cover in this. So, it's fine if you have the questions in front of you or you look down and pick up, okay, you also want to know this about me. Let me tell you that. Well, just tell me that. Don't have a pre-rehearsed answer. Some people do like to show their personality physically. They like to, give you a backflip or a juggle. It depends on the show that I'm casting for. I mentioned Canada's Got Talent. I got to see something when you're doing Canada's Got Talent, But usually it is just communicating who you are, why you want to be there, why we should have you there.
And when people communicate who they are, why they want to be there, does what you're looking for change depending on the genre of the show? So if you're casting for a dating show like The Bachelor, or a social strategy game like Big Brother or Traders, or even a talent competition show like Canada's Got Talent or Canada's Drag Race, is there a different story that people need to tell, or are there a different set of points that people need to hit on for you?
Well, I mean, follow the directions of the series, and the casting is going to give you, the casting application will give you those directions. But interesting people are interesting people. And I think, and there are probably a few departments who will challenge me, but I think casting, when it comes to competition reality or reality in general, if you have the right cast, you can do anything. So casting is essential. For example, I was once asked if I would cast a cooking show. And I said, well, I don't know good cooking. And cooking is not a passion of mine. Will I find you great characters who want to cook? Yes. I'm great at finding great people. But the cooking skills themselves, I'm not familiar with. So there's some times when I need to have backup. I need to have somebody on my team who can actually test the skill that needs to be proven for the series. But I'll look for the personality first and then the different personalities. But I mean, just follow the directions. Casting's going to lead you right to what they want.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing that people don't realize. Casting wants to cast you. Like, maybe not you individually, but it's like they want to be able to find their people so they don't have to keep going on the search. Like, they want it to work out. Every video that they watch, they hope that it's the video that has that pop. So I think it's easy to think that, oh my gosh, I'm going to be like a needle in a haystack. There's thousands of other people. But I'm like, no. Casting wants it to work with you. They want to find you.
Yeah. And guess what? If you're not right for this, I might hold on to you for something else. Like we've talked about the Traders. I love Mike so much. And Mike has been on my radar, my casting partner's radar for 10 years. We've looked at him for different series. And this one, he just fit right in the groove for that. So you just never know. If you're authentically yourself and people know what you want, people know what you have to offer, the casting team, that is, they might say, okay, I'm going to put a pin in this one. I'm going to put a pin in this one. I'm coming back. I'm coming back for this.
Yeah, I think that that's such a good point too. I remember when I sent in my Survivor application, I didn't get called until a year after. And then they called me. They're like, hey, are you still interested in this? I'm like, yeah, obviously. But I'm like, oh, it just had to work out at the perfect time. And I'm thinking, if I had been cast earlier and had been on a different season, maybe I wouldn't have won. So just trust that it's going to come up at the right time for you and for casting.
Yeah. I like to call them my casting gods. I think my casting gods work on my behalf when somebody decides to, withdraw halfway through a process, or somebody else really stands up. I think, okay, my casting gods are speaking to me. And that I learned from Orrin Isaacs, who's an incredible guy. He was a band leader on the Mike Bullard show for the really old people that are listening. And he was also one of the team on a show I did called Canada Sings. And he was like, Heather, I got my music gods. You have to trust your casting gods. And I've listened to them ever since.
I totally see that. And whether or not it's with reality TV casting or anything that you're applying to or anything that you are auditioning for, one of the best pieces of advice that I've heard is, if it's a no, there are a million reasons why, and it probably has nothing to do with you.
99% of the time, it has nothing to do with who you are or what you brought to the table, why you weren't selected for this show for this season. So keep doing what you're doing. I know one of the most challenging things I have is when people ask for feedback and like, can you tell me why you weren't cast and why it wasn't cast? And, first of all, there's no answer that's going to make someone in that position feel any better. I'm afraid if you're not cast on a series and you've put your heart into it, some of these casting processes can be really long and involved. I'm afraid there's nothing that I'm going to be able to say that's going to soothe that. You need to feel the grief for a certain period of time. And always remember that it wasn't you. It was us.
A piece of feedback that I hear that people get all the time is, we liked you, but you didn't fit the puzzle for this season. So as a casting director, can you describe what this puzzle is and what you keep in mind when you put together a puzzle for a season?
It's a magical Rubik's Cube. Basically, when I speak to a network and the producer team, they all have things that they imagine would be perfect for a cast. Also, with my experience, I try to think about what an audience would like to see. And somewhere in this group of 10, 12, 15, 20 people, I have to try to present those who are going to allow an audience member to at least have a glimpse of themselves. Because when you see a little bit of yourself, you could imagine yourself doing it and you can relate to that person. So I'm looking for all kinds of diversity, and I'm looking for different experiences, different ages, different backgrounds. I'm also looking, Canadians have a thing where they are very invested in their geographical region. I don't think the U.S. has this. I don't think the U.S. is like, I don't see anybody from Iowa. But if you're casting in Canada, I will hear from those in Saskatchewan if I have not cast someone from Saskatchewan. So it's really important for me that I'm looking for that as well. So when I'm putting pieces of the puzzle together, I'm showing the producers and the network what boxes this candidate checks versus the other boxes that this candidate checks. And you hope that they will mesh well. You can't have, 15 people all high energy. You have to have some thoughtful thinkers. You have to have a balance. So that's what you're doing when you're putting together a puzzle. You're trying to represent almost everything. And it's impossible. It's impossible. But we try every time.
That's the thing. This is another example of one of those things where if you don't get cast this season for a show, the puzzle just might not be the right thing. I've heard stories where a cast is set and then somebody gets hurt. And unfortunately, that piece was vital to another piece fitting. So since that person couldn't do it, they had to replace the other person, and that other person had to wait another season. And it's just kind of part of the game of it. But it's okay. Your time will come in a future season.
Yeah. And it's really hard for me to say to those candidates, you're good. You have to have a thick skin with this one. Keep walking forward. Keep walking forward. But it's a challenge. And I mean, I've had some really, really incredible moments of seeing dreams come true. But I crush more dreams than I make.
Yeah.
And I really encourage people to get back up when they have one of those moments. Get back up, dust yourself off, get back in the ring. Because if this is something you want that you think is going to make you happy, we'll be here. We'll be here waiting to cast the next season.
Does it get any easier over the years to have to crush those dreams and have to, unfortunately, reject people?
No. Not for me. I mean, maybe some of the other casting producers, you can talk to them, but I used to cast shows and then I would stay on to produce the cast. So yeah, for the first 2 seasons of Big Brother, I produced the cast. And for the first season of Bachelor season 1, I produced the cast. But it got to a point where my heart would break. It was challenging. I was going through a lot of Kleenex. And I thought, okay,
yeah,
I think maybe it's best for me to try to get the vision and try and present the vision and then hand over the cast to a qualified cast producer who's going to put their needs first. Although I will tell you, I was pretty pleased to be a part of the team that, pioneered the sequester and cast care system that I think a lot of people use now in Canada. And I'm a big proponent of care. And I think if you take care of all of the details that a cast member could worry about or competitor could worry about, then all they have to focus on is their performance, their game, and then we've done our job. I'm also a big proponent for aftercare.
Yes. Because we need aftercare.
You need aftercare. This is a really unique, intense roller coaster. Competitors need help on the other end of things to talk that through.
Is that something that you keep in mind with casting now? I think that over the last few years, with social media having grown, do you make sure that you're picking people that you hope are going to be able to handle the after part of the show too?
Absolutely. We like to say whenever I'm working with a team, I'm like, just be careful that we're not selecting somebody who's too tender. And when somebody comes in and they have all the promise in the world, but you can see that they're maybe not ready. they're just not ready to take on everything that's going to be needed for them to shoulder with this experience. And you do want people to thrive. Like, you want to put people in a position where they're going to soar. And if I think that they're too tender, and luckily I've worked with some incredible producers, and I can say, this one's too tender. And they'll say, gotcha. And we'll just wait. We'll just wait for another year and hope that they're ready to step out. But yeah, oh gosh, yeah, we look for that.
Yeah, see, another example of something that is just out of your control. You just need another year to mature before it is your time.
Yeah.
What else has changed? I know that you have self-described as being in reality TV casting since the dark ages. So what else has changed over the years?
Okay, well, my gosh. I mean, really, when we first started casting, we would have to go out and flyer. We would have to go and hand flyers out.
Oh my God.
Put notices on poles. And this wasn't that long ago. Like, I remember when I was doing a show called First Dates in Vancouver, and I was going out and self-flyering. But of course, that was a dating show. So I was going to all the singles events. I was, you have to go out and seek out cast for that. And VHS tapes. I used to have people who would have to produce things on a VHS
oh my gosh.
tape. And now, I mean, the last thing I was casting, we're doing, TikTok palm, videos. I mean, that's a huge thing. Now there's casting sites. If people are interested in participating on a reality competition show, you can go to sites online and you can look for opportunities. It's so much simpler for the casting and the individual to connect now than it used to be to get the word out of what we're doing and what we're looking for. Now it's much more simple. I also, and this is something that I kind of miss, is, casting now is usually done over Zoom. And it's done over the internet. And there was a year that I crossed the country 4 times to do casting. You do Halifax, you do Montreal, you do Toronto, you do sometimes Ottawa, and Edmonton, Calgary, Winnipeg, Vancouver. And I crisscrossed that country 4 times setting up castings to meet people. And I used to love doing that. I used to love seeing the people line up who would want to participate in the show that we were doing. So now it's a little bit different. I miss that. I miss that excitement of traveling across the country. I miss the face-to-face sit down. But I think there's something about participating on a Zoom call or a video call that actually does make it a little bit more authentic. I think because people are a little bit more relaxed. If you had to line up to be cast for something, and you got to get there early, you got to get the thing, you got to sit, and then you sit there and you get in the chair and you're finally like, here I am, and I've got to perform. So I think there's something more relaxed about it now, but I do miss crossing the country.
Also, now that it's so common for there to be so many reality shows, I have this joke with some of my friends. I'm like, everybody's going to be on a reality show at some point in their life, okay? There's so many now. Are you, as a casting director, cognizant of people who might just be doing it for clout or might just be doing it for fame? Is that something you're able to identify?
Yeah, you feel it. You feel that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that they're not suitable to be a cast member. There are all kinds of attributes that candidates have. That doesn't mean that they're negative. Every attribute that a candidate has is right for a certain show. So that's why I also think it's really important to be yourself, because you might not be right for this, but I don't know what's coming down the pike. You might be right for that. So yeah, be whoever you want.
When you're casting, especially for a show where there's a winner at the end, do you cast all people who you believe have what it takes to win?
Yes. Now, that wasn't always the case. I think there's been a big shift in reality, factual competition shows. I think back when I started years and years ago, people wanted to see those who stepped up to the plate and didn't succeed. They wanted to have that experience of seeing that. But that's not the case now. I think it is kinder, and I think it is more celebratory. And I think when I put together a cast, yes, absolutely, I think any one of them can walk that stage and take it. Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to hear that. I think the world has changed so much. We've gone through a lot over the last few years, the last few decades, that it's like, okay, we just need to root for somebody. So I like that everybody is set up to succeed in some way.
Oh, yeah. You know what? People are complicated enough. You don't need to do that much to them to produce great television. You just have to let them be, put them in the circumstance.
I feel like many listeners would agree with you. It's like sometimes you don't need the bells and whistles. Just let the amazing people do their thing, and that's going to make great TV.
Absolutely.
I have asked the listeners if they had questions for you, and we received lots and lots of questions about reality TV casting. Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
I think that there are a lot of people who want to put their hat in the ring on various shows. So I unfortunately cannot ask everybody's questions, but these are the ones that kept coming up again. So hopefully you can give people some advice to get them cast.
Hope so.
The first is, what are the main do nots in an audition tape?
For me, if you are reading and you're not just speaking to me as a human being, that's not good for me. I'd like you to just talk to me. This is going to sound so crazy, but everybody who works with me is going to laugh because this is such a bee. I have such a bee in my bonnet about this. But when you are recording your video, hold your phone in landscape mode. Otherwise, when you submit that tape, I get a third of the screen and I look at it and I go, ugh, like I just want to see more of you. Well, that makes a difference to me. But I'm just thinking about some of the other cast people might say, Heather, that might be just you. Answer the questions that are asked of you. Stay in the time limit that is given to you. If you go like 14 seconds over, generally it doesn't matter. But if I've asked you for a 90-second tape and you've delivered me 12 and a half minutes, that's not going to sit well with me. So follow the instructions, be yourself, show them all of you that you can, and don't overdo it. Don't overthink it. Don't overdo it.
A follow-up to that, people were asking, how important is production quality in videos? People were like, do they want effects? Do they want transitions? Do we want all this stuff? How important is it?
Not. I need to be able to hear you. I need to be able to see you. So you want the light source in front of you. You do not want to be backlit. Like take a look at where you're sitting and think about the ambient noise as well. I don't know why people feel the need to apply for things from their car. So I get so many tapes from the front seat of people's cars. And I'm like, okay, you look a little restricted and compacted, but that's fine. If I can hear you and I can see you, that's what I need. I mean, sometimes when there's effects and things, I think, oh, bless your heart. You don't need that. I just need to see you.
That's a thing. Just you.
Thank you.
Another question that came up a lot is people saying that they have an amazing personality. A lot of people self-described as awesome, amazing personality. I believe all of you. I think you are all amazing. But people have challenges in terms of transferring their personality onto a video or onto a written application. So do you have advice for people on how they can do that?
Oh, gosh. I don't really know that I do. I think if you are authentically yourself and directly answer the questions that are asked of you, that should help. Don't try to be too much. Don't overperform. But thing is, not everybody's right for everything. But as I said, I think some people are right for certain things. So I wouldn't apologize or overanalyze what you've done. Give exactly what you feel in that moment. Give the answer you feel in that moment. And it should be coming from you with you on that show in mind, as we've said. It's as simple and complicated as that.
So I've talked to friends who you've seen on many reality shows, who I know you've cast for shows, and they've told me about how they would make their audition tape the first few years and that they were not making any progress in terms of the application. But then one year they actually just had a friend ask them questions and they just answered the questions, edited out the friend, and then that was the audition tape that got them selected. Do you think that it could work where somebody gets somebody to ask them questions so it becomes more of a conversation and you feel comfortable?
Yeah, absolutely. If that's something that you're worried about is your level of comfort when you're responding. And if you think that you're not being genuine, put somebody that you love dearly right behind your computer and talk to them. And I think, I've even had people say to me, I've got my best friend here and they're going to ask me the questions. Terrific. Ask the questions and let's hear them and let's hear you talk to them, because that's the way that I'm going to want you to talk to me, as if you're talking to somebody that you know well, to show me how comfortable you are. So I like to see how comfortable you can be. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize when you're watching reality TV and you're watching people do their confessionals, it's not like we just sit there and we are just going on this monologue where we're just sharing our thoughts for the day. There are producers there who are asking us questions. So I think it's okay if you get prompted to answer stuff because that's how it's going to work once you're on the show anyways.
Absolutely. And when I say like, don't use cue cards, if you want to put the questions on a cue card and you're like, I'm just going to refer to my question. Okay. You also wanted me to tell you this. Now let me give you my answer. That's absolutely fine too. If you read the question and then respond to it, that's fine too. But you're right. When you're in the position, when you're on the show, there's somebody there who's guiding you right down that path.
Yeah, no monologues required, okay? We can save that for Shakespeare and the theater. It's always a conversation on reality TV.
Yeah.
Another question that was really common is people are wondering, do casting directors actually watch the video all the way through?
Yes, I do. And if you have taken the time to sit down at that computer and put together a thoughtful response and film yourself prepared for the show and you're trying to tell me why you want to be a part of the show, absolutely I'm watching it. I'm watching every second of it. Yes, we do.
And do you find it helps if you're grabbed within the first few seconds?
Yeah.
Or do you find that sometimes you're like, oh, okay, let me just watch it all the way through for the sake of this person? You need to be grabbed in the first 10 to 15 seconds, right?
Yeah, both. I will say both because the first few seconds, it's a gift when somebody just jumps off the screen and gives you exactly what you want to hear because that's what I need to do to prove that you are right for this too. So in a sense, you're doing my job for me, which is perfect. However, if it takes you a little while to warm up and I notice there's a gem at a minute 45, I'll think, wonder if I just need to give this person another chance to slip into that mode, you know? So it's both.
Oh, yeah. And I find that people don't realize it's really common in reality TV casting where if there's something about you that catches the attention of the casting director, they can tell you to go back and record a video again. As I said earlier, my audition for Survivor was me just standing there explaining who I am and why I want to be on Survivor. And then the casting director, when they reached out to me, they were like, great, but now I need you to be in these situations. So he's like, I need to see you running. I need to see you at the office. I need to see this. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad that, again, my low production quality video was enough for him to come back to me and say, we want to see it, but in a different way. So you never know. You never know what people can say to you.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you 100%. And that's why it's important to try. Because the thing is, you'll get more comfortable with the casting process too. You know, I've been so fortunate to have worked on Canada's Drag Race and we now have multiple seasons. So I get to see candidates a few times and to see, I know when I watch somebody, you can see a glimmer and then you get to see them the next season and you can see that they're blossoming. I mean, there's nothing better than to watch somebody that you thought, I knew there was a spark there. And then boom, they're just starting to come into their own. That's so exciting for us. But you've got to try. You've got to put yourself out there. Otherwise, we'll never know.
Whenever people say to me, they're like, oh, I want to apply, but I don't know if I should. Number one, I'm just like, okay, if you're not sure if you should apply for a show, you shouldn't apply for it because you must 1,000% want to be there in order to get cast. But then the advice I also give to people is there are so many opportunities in the casting process for it to potentially not work out for so many reasons that are out of your control. Don't eliminate yourself before you've even gotten started. Don't be the one to reject yourself. Just throw it in there because you never know what's going to happen. Let the casting person reject you if that's what's going to happen.
It's true. And we will. But I'm also going to give you the flip side of that coin because there are so many shows casting. And if you're ever approached about a project or you do apply for a project, do a gut check at every step. Like when you're filling out the application, does this feel good? Great. Keep moving forward. And if you move on to that, they call you for the next step and you're asked to move forward and provide more materials. How's your gut feel about this? Good? Keep going. But if at any point you feel like this is not the right fit, this doesn't feel good, yeah, politely withdraw. That's absolutely fine.
That's the thing. You also don't have to do anything. Even if you do it and you get far and you get cold feet, it's fine. There's other people who will happily take the spot. Hopefully you had a good experience talking to casting, getting into the process and seeing the behind the scenes of your favorite show. And it's fine if you walk away from it.
My hope is that whenever somebody bows out of the process, whether it's immediately after they apply, whether they make it to the series and they're out first or they're out in the finale, I hope that they are satisfied with the experience that they've had. So I think when you're going into this, think, am I satisfied with this experience right now? Can I walk away feeling good in my gut? Then you do it. So I've had so many people say to me, you know what, Heather, it was so nice just even going through the application and answering these questions for myself because I haven't thought about these things before, and it was so nice talking to you and just having those moments to express myself. So I hope people feel satisfied no matter when they bow out of the competition.
Again, you never know. You could end up like Magic Mike Durzo and win the Traitors Canada 10 years later. So you just never know what's going to happen.
Oh, you got to be a fan of Mike's.
I love Mike. Like, truly, I've gone to his magic show with my family since winning. I'm not mad at him for murdering me. In fact, I'm like, okay, if you're going to murder me, you have to at least win. So I'm a fan of his, and I'm so happy that he did well.
Amazing.
When it comes to putting together the video, are there pieces of information that you think people must hit on within the first 15 seconds of a video?
It depends on the show and what you're doing for the show, what they've asked for in the tape. I mean, typically you have to give, your name, age, city, province. And I think you should try to give them some kind of interesting fact or something that's going to grab them off the first 15 seconds. It depends on if you're cooking or juggling or dating, what you'd want to do. You're allowed to be creative. I don't think you need to completely overdo it. I've gotten a few tapes that stick right in my mind forever. I can tell you, if I can go back to Canada's Drag Race, I mean, season 1, we had an incredible drag artist named Jimbo, who has, of course, gone.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, who has gone on to win All-Stars in the US. And I can still quote lines from Jimbo's audition because that's how memorable Jimbo was. And that's how secure Jimbo was and who they were and what they were presenting. It was amazing.
Wow. Okay, everyone, if you are a fan of Jimbo, you have to thank Heather for seeing the talent. Even though I think with someone like Jimbo, I think anyone who came across that tape probably would have seen it too. Thank you for your role in Jimbo's journey.
Thank you. I just made sure the incredible producers in World of Wonder and everybody saw Jimbo and got to enjoy what I enjoyed. I'm the one who's lucky enough to see it first.
I know that when you were talking to me about doing this podcast, you had said that you looked at the guest list and you had cast a lot of the people who I have had on the show. So one, thank you, because you have played a role in me meeting them. Is it wild? Like, do you feel like these people you cast are your babies when you go on to see what they do next?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I got pieces of my heart all over the place, and I think you'll probably, if you talk to some of the people that I had the chance, especially if I had a chance to produce the cast, they'll probably say the same thing. But, what's interesting is you spoke with Trevor Boris, who's the executive producer and showrunner at Canada's Drag Race, and I adore him. And I have been watching Trevor since he was a stand-up comic at the Rivoli in Toronto. I remember talking to him about how I was feeling about doing condolence calls, which are really challenging, as we've discussed. And he said, Heather, I know because you had to condolence call me once.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I remembered that in that moment. And I was like, oh, and look at how lucky I am to, be standing here with him now, But yeah, that happened.
That's an amazing story. And I think that's for anybody who is on the receiving end of a condolence call. Yes, Trevor got that call. And then now you are casting for a show that he is the showrunner of. You just never know where things are going to go in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's always worth getting up and taking another swing. Yeah. So lucky to work with Trevor.
The question that was the most common that the listeners submitted, I was surprised, but I'm like, you know what? In this day and age, this makes sense. It was the most common question.
Oh, no.
People asked, do I need to be an influencer? There were so many people who were like, I am a normal person. I love the shows. How do I stand out? Do I need a social media following?
Nope. You do not need a social media following. But, a little bit of presence helps. And when I'm casting a show, I do look at your social media. So at times I'll go, oh, their account is private. And so I can't see. And that's fine. I mean, everybody has the right to privacy. But when I'm looking at you, the more I can see of you, the better I can do my job. And, there's times when, the cast, it has to be kept confidential until the network does the announcement. And so I can't get on and follow people. I can't get on, and I have to be very judicious with my actions on social media as well. So it is not necessary that you have 30,000 followers. It is helpful if I can see a few things about you, if I can see who you are, what you do, and how you do it, because that informs me and my presentations.
All right. So then it's not a requirement, but could be helpful if your account is public. Hint, 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 maybe. And at the very least, honestly, if you're worried about whatever you have in your private account being available for public consumption, you should clean that up now. I'll give you some advice. Clean that up before you end up on a reality TV show, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think, and especially I'm so enjoying TikTok these days. I love seeing what people do on their TikToks. What they're up to. That is a huge help to me. So yeah, it's a help, but not a necessity.
Heather, thank you so much for being on the pod today. So much amazing advice. And I also think you helped to humanize casting. Casting is not some mystery thing that you have to try to win over. Casting actually wants to help you get on the show. So thank you so much for chatting. Are there any shows that you are casting for right now that you can talk about, or where can people find out what you're casting for in the future?
I am pretty elusive on social media. I don't post a lot. But if I'm posting something that is public, then I will make a note of it on my Instagram or even Facebook. So you can LinkedIn, you can find me there. But what I'm working on right now is a little bit of a secret.
Ooh. Okay, well, I can't wait to see it on screen whenever that happens. But Heather, thank you so much for chatting today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Erika.
Thank you so much, Heather, for sharing all of your casting expertise. And I hope that with the advice that she shared, we can see some Happy to See Me listeners on reality shows in the future. Now, I love to end each episode by answering a listener question. And when I made the call out asking people for reality TV casting questions, a question that snuck in there, somebody asked me which reality show I would want to do next. So as we know, I have done Survivor and I was on the Traitors Canada season 1. And honestly, I don't know which reality show I would do next. I didn't even know I was going to do The Traitors. The Traitors didn't even exist when I came off of Survivor. So I don't know. I can't really think of a show out there that I would really want to do. I would love to host a show. I would love to guest on a show. So I'm putting it out there that there are certain shows I would love to appear on as a guest. But yeah, I don't know which one I would do next. So maybe that means you will see me on TV in a different capacity soon. Or maybe that means that someone just needs to invent the next show that I am willing to say yes to. Hopefully that is not a disappointment, but that is me just being honest. And hey, maybe that's good. Maybe that leaves room for other people who really want to do shows to have their chance to do another show. That's me trying to look at it in a positive way. But thank you so much to everyone for tuning in to this week's episode and for submitting your questions on reality TV casting. If you haven't already, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And share this episode with a reality TV hopeful so they can get Heather's advice. Thank you so much for tuning in this week, and I will be happy to see you next Monday.